Welcome to Building, Analyzing, and Transforming Post-Pandemic Customer Experiences. Customer expectations have evolved more in the past 18 months than in the past 10 years, thanks to technology changes and the coronavirus pandemic. Health, safety, accessibility, and intuitive customer journeys have all made an impact on what customers expect from a brand. In response, many restaurants have implemented new or expanded experiences such as curbside pickup, QR codes, and other pandemic-led concepts. I'm Elliot Maris, the editor of Kiosk Marketplace, and joining me today to discuss this very important topic is Jared Norris, Vice President of Operations at Chatmeter, and Scott Compton, Senior Analyst at Forrester. Scott, what must restaurants do to improve the customer experience in the post-pandemic world?
Hey, thanks, Elliot. We're going to kick it off here. We're going to roll through a few very interesting topics, and of course, we have Q&A at the end. That we highly welcome you guys to jump in and ask anything that you need answers to. First, we're going to cover. We're going to discuss Forrester insights. So that will be me presenting about 20 minutes or so. We're going to talk through understanding of the evolution and the transformation of that customer experience. Then we're going to jump over to Jared, VP of Operations here at Chatmeter, and he's going to talk about how to stay agile amongst these changing expectations and how to apply digital efforts to build out a real loyalty strategy. So let's get it started. I'm going to take you through quickly state of what is fast casual or quick service dining right now. We're going to quickly go through the past. We're going to anchor ourselves in the present and look forward to the future here. So we're going way back, okay, 79 AD. First fast casual experience that I could find out there. Haven't heard of one newer or older. If you have, put it in the chat. I'd love to check it out. So this is Thermopolia, literally translated a cook shop in Pompeii, Italy. Now, if you think you've had massive disruption over this last year and a half, imagine if you were these workers, okay, that had an entire volcano blow up on their citizenry. One thing I did want to point out here was note the emphasis on the environment. Apparently, this is one of 80 in Pompeii that have been excavated at this point, and this one was frescoed pretty much the entire thing. So even back then, 79 AD, fast casual had a sense for environment makes a difference. I thought that was super interesting. Okay, let's fast forward about 14 centuries now to the Renaissance in Europe. Anyone know what these little things are? If so, drop it in the chat. I'm really curious if anyone knows what these are. I'm going to make a reference here that this is very likely the first drive-through window, but it wasn't cars back then. Clearly, we're talking about the 1500s. So literally, this was the first walk-up window to get food and drink. Okay, they called these little doors of paradise in Florence, Italy, and it was one of the first direct-to-consumer initiatives prior to the plague that really took off once the plague hit. Now, if that sounds familiar, I'm sure there are many of you out there right now who are thinking, thank goodness for my drive-through window over this past year and a half. Not all of you have them, but I know the ones who did made great use of them. Since COVID started, only one was reopened and actually serving food and drink through, and these were actually designed for wine back in the day by wine producers on estates. And now there are over 100 open, actually serving food and drink through these windows in Florence. All right, so we're going to just get you through the timeline really quickly. We won't spend too much time in history. I just thought those were fascinating examples. So back in Pompeii's Thermopolia, then Little Doors of Paradise, where they're asking themselves, hey, can we sell through windows? Will people really buy this way? Then one of the biggest developments was, of course, the network of roads, especially in the States, expands significantly in the 50s, right? 40s and 50s. And the big question there, of course, was, will people buy food on the go? And then the buy button, right? 90s, we've got the internet coming into play. Now fast casual and quick service restaurants are asking themselves, should we sell online with mobile? And we know where that went. And then just not long ago, I'm calling this TGFDTW, which means thank goodness for drive-through windows. Okay, that was just a year ago. And then we land it right now. You are here. So I'm gonna buzz through these pretty quickly. We're gonna get a good sense of where we are right now in terms of the present, what those customer expectations are from their mouths themselves. Talk a little bit about the disruption and evolution that we see out there, and then we'll jump into the future. So just to take some stats out, in 2024, this is a Forrester forecast. In 2024, 72% of US retail sales will still take place in store. Okay. Now the reason that I use retail here is because we have a larger data set to work with, and this is probably a very good indicator of what will happen in restaurants as well. So 72% of folks are still going to go back into an establishment to transact. And US retail mobile commerce, we're projecting will grow about 17% annually through 2024. Now, many of you have probably seen mobile growth in excess of that over the past year and a half. It's been a strange one for sure, but we're projecting it'll be solid 17% growth year over year through 2024, okay, mobile transactions. And of US online adults who started ordering restaurant online during the pandemic, 40% say they will continue to do so after the pandemic ends. So the big question out there is, okay, yes, we saw some significant behavior adjustment from consumers and people who own restaurants out there. And what do we need to plan for? What is the consumer actually going to do when the regulations and restrictions are not in place anymore? 40% say they'll continue to order online. Okay, so we've got to keep thinking about online. If we dive into a few consumer patterns and expectations that we know have shifted and really want to know where they're going, you'll see here that number one, price is still a primary consideration for your buyers. 27% of online adults order directly from the restaurant itself rather than other apps because it's the least expensive option. So price still a primary consideration. Number two, choice and convenience still matters like crazy. 26% of consumers like as many ways to order from a restaurant as possible. They just want choice to serve their needs in that moment. They have very busy lifestyles. 24% often order food or beverages when they're on the go. And they have some really interesting queries. And this is one we could dive into later in Q&A if we want to. We've got food near me queries, right? So vegetarian food near me. Things that people are executing actually through other apps, queries that are coming through other apps. And when we ask consumers out there, hey, what would you like? 17% wish they could order from restaurants via those mobile mapping apps. They're on the go. They want a quick way in to place an order. So keep that one in mind. We've got some content later that's interesting in that regard. Number 5, friction in online orders. Basically, there's a good percentage that think it's difficult to order from restaurant and apps, and sometimes they receive wrong items when they do so. And there's also burgeoning new use cases in terms of engagement opportunities. And they're interested and open-minded to them. So 13% would like to be able to order restaurant food or beverages from, electric vehicle charging stations. That's a new use case, right? But something we should be thinking about if we're thinking about the future. If we talk about channels and to-go orders specifically, mobile is by far the primary order path for to-go orders, right? So you can see here in the top line, 44% of orders coming through, to-go orders coming through, order online or a smartphone. Secondarily, another interesting piece here is that 36% when they're getting to-go order through the drive-through, and almost equally 35% order inside a restaurant to go. So we're still seeing both use cases, drive-through and in restaurant. And consumers, when we ask them, where did you use to order food from a restaurant online? What did you use? They use delivery apps more than restaurant apps. And you can see that here with DoorDash and Uber Eats pulling in the top 2 places here. And then number 3, 34% are ordering directly from a restaurant's website or app. Now, that's not a prescription for the future, right? That's an indicator of a very, very significant opportunity, right? Basically, we need to get really into the nuts and bolts of the entire journey and experience for that customer through your digital apps, your digital experiences, and fine tune them as much as possible so that we can make sure we're competing up there against DoorDash, Uber Eats, and other competitors out there. And there's some more competitors we'll talk about in just a second. Consumers are still worried about safety. And I mentioned this in some of the behavior shift section. And when we ask them, what are the key actions that the organization, oh, I'm sorry, you know what, this is actually wrong. When we ask them basically what makes them want to go back into a store once they've been there, right? And 44% said they actually feel safer shopping online due to COVID-19. Most people still want everyone in stores to wear masks, and 34% want more safety measures to be obvious in stores. And that obvious part is a piece of it. They don't want you to do it in secret. They actually want to see you doing it, which is a little bit different than where we were maybe 2 years ago. So we're going to dive into some disruption and evolution, and I know you're all feeling it already. So I know that I'm preaching to the choir. What I'm going to do is focus on some imminent challenges that we can solve with digital tech investments, and I'll tell you where some of those investments are going. So one of the chief competitors out there, as you well know, and one of the phrases is grocery, right? Is grocery. And one of the phrases that I've heard over the past year and a half or so is share of stomach. And I think it's a really interesting concept. We all have to feed ourselves, and we're going to get that food one way or another. Either grow it, buy it from a grocer, or buy it from eat from a restaurant, right? So when we look back at what happened over 2020, what we see is food and drink sales online grew significantly, 74.9%. Now, this stat doesn't actually include food and drink from fast casual restaurants. This is packaged food and drink, so grocery and convenience store purchases online. This is your competition in addition to your own vertical, right? So not only are you competing with all the restaurants out there, but you're actually competing against grocery. And they had a banner year as well. They were open just like you, essential retailer just like you, and moving very quickly to make digital change just like you, to make it as sticky an experience as possible for the consumer. So a couple advantages that grocery has, in my mind, compared to fast casual, that you need to be thinking about and potentially building into some of your future roadmap. In terms of the business itself, grocery has some very, very deep loyalty data. Imagine how long you've been giving them your phone number when you transact at the register, right? We're talking 10 plus years, maybe even 20 in some circumstances. So they have a lot of data. They're also growing their digital teams and tech very quickly over this past year and a half. And they have union labor, which changes that aspect of the cost related to running a store or restaurant. Now, I will say that I just saw a Starbucks potential unionization element happening in the States in just the last day or so. So could that be happening in fast casual? Potentially, something to pay attention to. In terms of the consumer, here are some of the other advantages related to the consumer that grocery has and food, right? They do delivery, you guys do that too. Curbside, you guys do that too. Subscriptions, a little bit different, right? They can basically do replenishment ordering. They've got meal kits to make it easy. They've got meal planning mechanisms to help you, find a good list. They've got heat and eat food, and they have hot grab and go food as well. So do not discount the moves that grocers are making, and don't think about them like old grocery from 2 years ago. They are moving very quickly now. So stay on your toes, and we need to do the same, right? All right. Another very, very big factor, and I know you guys are feeling it, is the US labor participation rate. Right now, it is very, very challenging to acquire and retain talent. It's a primary concern. When I looked up the labor participation rate, which is national data, right? This is like legitimate national data. Basically, what we're seeing is we're at the lowest labor participation rate that we've seen since the mid-'70s when women joined the workforce. Okay, this is civilian participation, basically percentage of people working against population, right? Lowest point since the mid-'70s. And what we're seeing, especially in retail and starting to come into QSR and fast casual as well, is a lot of store associate tools, making that job more efficient, easier, more complete for the workers, for the field workers who are out there. So keep that in mind when you're thinking about, okay, yes, people are kind of going to go back into the restaurant, And we've got to make it an efficient process for our staff particularly. And these are some of the areas, and literally, I would put this almost in order of what I'm seeing in terms of prevalence in retail right now. I'm imagining it's going to be drifting, if not already, into fast casual very soon. And it's a great way to help retain talent, right? Make their job easier, make them feel effective at their work. This next question is, okay, what we ask business owners, okay, what are the key actions your org is taking to achieve the objective of improving your customer experience? 28% are adding or improving mobile, 24% working on their stores or branches, and 21% are improving omnichannel or cross-channel experiences. Now, this doesn't seem that insightful, right? But what I will tell you, what is different about this year is that mobile moved into a spot in front of store branch experience and omnichannel experience for the first time. So mobile has taken its place in terms of priorities for businesses. So if you're not focusing on mobile, I'm sure you are, you're running a little bit behind, right? We've got to stay tuned to that mobile experience. And here's why. The consumer mobile use cases are expanding, and they're doing so pretty quickly. In general, people are using their phone in situations where they never were before, right? In store, in restaurant, looking up, using QR codes, looking up product information, comparing product, nutritional information, all kinds of things. So there are a lot of new use cases. On the left, I won't go through these one by one. Most of these are probably, if not already implemented, they're in your near-term roadmap, right? Things like alternative payment methods, easy reorders, and loyalty interactions. Okay, I would call that mobile 1.0. If you're not there yet, get busy, right? Mobile 2.0, we're talking, the next level, the next gen of what mobile experience is like. And we're talking about personalized offers, potential to order from a Maps app, or at least create an easy link through, product recommendations that are powered by your knowledge of that consumer, localized and geo-targeted promotions, the ability to handle things like veggie near me when there's not a single word veggie on your menu, right? But someone says, oh, I need vegetarian food near me. But let's say you're Italian and you're an Italian food place, but you've got a vegetarian section, right? But you don't call it veggie on your menu. Are you going to show up in those results? Likely not. So we want to make sure that we're dialing that in so that we're showing up for all of these new mobile queries, like, show me gluten-free options near me, whatever they are. They're likely not on your menu. So we got to dive deep into those attributes. Deep product content, can't say enough about this. We're talking nutritional information, ingredients, and even source of ingredients is starting to come to prominence. And then post-order fluency. This is like those the messages that happen post-transaction that keep the customer engaged as they're driving and keep them informed as they know and are going to go do their pickup orders, things like that. We've got to dial in that journey and those experiences. The hidden secret of mobile. Okay, guys, I'm going to let the cat out of the bag. It's that customer ID, right? It is literally the most important thing related to mobile that I can imagine. It enables behavior tracking in and around that restaurant. It gives you a mechanism to gather personalization preferences. You can use it to support just walkout experiences or very easy digital payments. It exposes lots of opportunities for loyalty because you know what's happening and they've given you personalization preferences. And it helps build trust over time because you're adhering to those privacy preferences, right? And this is something that I want to mention. Is in retail, it's still very challenging. We still have retailers out there who think privacy should be thought of as an afterthought. Yeah, can we track it? Yeah. Is it private and safe? Yeah. Guys, I'm here to tell you that the consumer actually cares, and it's growing and growing. So make sure when the partnerships, the integrations that you've got, you have oversight into where the data is coming from, making sure that it's first and zero party only, and that you're literally honoring the preferences of the consumers that are out there. All right, we're jumping into the future here. I'm going to roll through these. There's just 3 examples, and I know you're thinking in this direction already. Digital first initiatives will expand. For many folks in retail and restaurants, initiatives start with a in-store experience, right? They're oriented around the in-store experience. What we're starting to see is more leverage for the digital experience to start there, right? So we're starting to see some digital first initiatives expand significantly in this area. And one example here is from Taco Bell in an earnings call, Q1 2021, where they talked about their personalized cravings box, basically where the customer can come in and pick which elements go into this box, right? Now, this is something, it touches on three things: a digital first initiative, right? Actually four: digital first initiative, mobile first, right? And it's a personalized product, which is quite unique in restaurant world, right? It's quite unique. And the third one that I want to mention is this sodium warning here. You see under my cravings box, that sodium warning, also another very valuable way that consumers are starting to shop based on their lifestyle or health and wellness preferences. Okay, so we're going to keep that in mind, which brings me to this. Health and wellness values are continuing to grow. They really are. So as restaurateurs, providers of food, we have to support lifestyle and healthy choices in nutrition to help build loyalty, especially into the younger generation. 30% right now follow health and wellness topics online, 55% track health and wellness trends overall, and 60% say they make a conscious effort to eat healthy food. So don't discount your health and wellness initiatives. Merge them into that digital experience so that you've got the information that consumer needs and make a great decision. Also for the future, and we're starting to see a few of these, some of these may be dream state, some of them may come to reality, but I can tell you where the thinking is going. There is a focus on smaller dining rooms and a higher prevalence on drive-through and pickup, and obviously all oriented around mobile and that digital experience. And also convenience as a priority is really coming to the surface. Over here, I'm showing a future, you've probably all seen this, a future rendering of what Taco Bell might look like in the future. And then over here to the right is actually from a supermarket, Lowe's Foods, with one of their new concept shops that's highly, highly lifestyle driven. We're not talking about your standard grocery store. We're talking about groceries in the middle, organized by lifestyle. So all the gluten-free is here, all the organics here, and a lot of food, ready-make and or easy to make food choices around the perimeter of the store. So they are incrementally trying to take a little bit of that restaurant share of stomach. So we need to move in that same direction if possible. And I want to thank you for sticking around so far. Jared Norris, the VP of Operations at Chatmeter, is now going to dive into his section and talk about how to put the rubber on the road.
Thanks, Scott. I appreciate it. Looking forward to talking to everybody. You know, I have an opportunity here at Chatmeter to speak to quite a few customers in the restaurant fast casual space. So over the past year, it's been interesting to hear all the innovations firsthand from some of our customers. You saw some of those examples that Scott shared. So I'm looking forward to talking to you guys all about this subject. So I think it starts, first of all, with the customer journey, right? As hard and as detrimental as the pandemic's been on the restaurant industry, it's also presented an unprecedented opportunity for a lot of brands to really think about their business, you know, identify those areas of friction and try and think about how they can make themselves more sustainable in the long run, right? I think there's an opportunity here for brands to emerge stronger than they were prior. And I've gone through a lot of customer journey mapping exercises in my career, and ideally you're mapping down the journey into all those intricate details that you would like a customer to follow, or you think your customers are following, and they follow it. But that's not the reality anymore. You know, customers have new expectations. They have new ideas for what they'd like. They are very quick and impulsive in their thought process. So you need a way to be able to adapt and think about what customers are expecting now at each phase, instead of just simply reverting back to what you were doing prior to the pandemic. So if you kind of think about the customer journey and now what customers are expecting at each phase, you know, the reality is foot traffic is not a primary business driver anymore. So the discovery, the exploring process is starting online, which means that your digital footprint is of the utmost importance. So, you know, a lot of customers are doing their research online. They're quickly filtering out brands that are not following certain health and safety protocols that align with their morals or where their stance is when it comes to health and safety. And they're looking at reading reviews. How are restaurants adapting? What's their outdoor space like? What's the feel look like? If they were to do curbside pickup or to go through the drive-through. So that's very important, right? There's very clear expectations that customers have of a business that they have to make sure they're filling out and are front and center for customers as they're doing their research online. As your customers are starting to do more and more research online, they want it quick and easy. They want it convenient, right? That's kind of the way of life now. If you think about everything from, the restaurant space all the way through to, Amazon and everything that is very quick and convenient and, right there on your doorstep or right at your fingertips. And customers are expecting that. So you need to be transparent. You need to show ways that you can be able to activate the customer experience right from your digital footprint, whether it be your website, your mobile app, or your online listing. And then, think about what customers are experiencing, right? Like they are actually looking at the brands and the way that they're holding themselves from an integrity standpoint to make their decisions. So how are brands and businesses treating their employees, their customers? Are they thinking about their health and safety? Are they putting them at the forefront? So if you have those local stories or stances from your business, make sure those are front and center. Make sure that those stories are heard by your customers so they know how you're handling the pandemic and how you're handling your employee base and your customers as you reemerge. And then finally, think about personalization. Scott covered quite a few opportunities to be able to track certain inputs and data inputs from your customers, trying to understand who your loyal customers are, how you're reactivating customers that may have been past customers, and think about ways you can continue to personalize that experience for them to continue to come back. Think about acting on personal feedback too, right? So make sure you're empathetic to what they're experiencing, that you hear what they're telling you, but also take that opportunity to think about how it's going to impact other future customers, right? One example may, prevent 100 other negative experiences if you actually take the time to listen, act on it, and then hopefully, close the loop with customers. So that's a great opportunity through resolution. And then that just goes back to the fact that you always want to remain engaged with customers, digitally, in person if you have that opportunity, but use that opportunity, to thank your customers for their business, but also look for opportunities to turn negative experiences into a really positive one, which is probably the primary driver for loyalty if you think about it. So next, because there's such a focus on the discover and explore phases, I'm going to go into a bit more detail on ways you can optimize that digitally. So, customers, again, are expecting transparency into the operations of a business. So this is your opportunity, to show them what you see is what you get, right? I think that's the mantra that businesses really need to think about when they're trying to attract customers online. There's a lot of opportunity now that providers are providing businesses on Google, on Yelp, on Facebook, on a lot of different providers where you can now call out specific attributes of services of your business around health and safety, around convenience, around ordering. So make sure that you're taking advantage of those and you're filling that out so customers know what you offer before they arrive and they know what to expect around the customer experience before they go ahead and start to do business with you. And this is where you can be mindful of your customers' effort. So there's opportunities to create action items directly front and center and catch your customers where they're at in the customer journey, which is right there on your website or on your listing, potentially making the decision to give you their business. So you have a chance here to reserve a table, right? You can order online. You can call out the fact that you do order and offer curbside pickup, or you offer the ability to do dine-in shopping and being able to actually eat there. So that's an opportunity for you to call that out front and center. And you have a chance here to also be transparent around your health and safety. Do you offer, the masks, and do you have that in store? Are you requiring those masks on from your employees and consumers? Do you have a fact that you can be able to go through and disinfect your tables? And is that, a schedule that you're offering? How have you changed your outdoor layout, your patio, your in-room dining? Take photos of those, new layouts so customers can see that when they're actually making their decision. Photos are becoming increasingly the most actionable item on a listing. People are looking and clicking through photos, not only from the business, but from customers. They want to know what to expect before they arrive. So make sure you have a chance to update those photos and also update your services and your attributes as it relates to your online listings. I'd also recommend taking a hard look at your menus. And I know a lot of restaurants that I've talked to and customers I've talked to have decided to shrink and condense their menu to core offerings, to obviously limit costs, but also to be able to focus on the operations of what they're really good at. And that does provide the opportunity to add specials and promotions. You saw Scott's example there with Taco Bell. There's ways to be able to entice loyal customers to come back and reactivate those customers. If you shrink your menu size, you can start to have innovations around other menu items that may attract new customers or may catch the eye of your loyal customers and reactivate those. So make sure you have those updated menus, not only on your listings, and build those out on Yelp and on Google, but also on your landing pages, and make sure they match. Because again, transparency, if somebody's ordering online in whatever omni-channel way they'd like, they should all match up, and they should be able to understand that that's offered. That also goes for in-store or in-room dining. If they show up and they saw online that a menu item was there and listed, but it's not in the menu when they arrive in the dining room, that's going to be a very poor experience. So you want to make sure you have that transparency across the board. And if you have delivery services and apps that you're partnering with, make sure that you list those out as well. I don't have a data point on this, but I would beg to differ to expect that a lot of customers have a subscription now with the delivery service in the past year, and they have a preference. So make sure that you list those out if you do partner with any third-party delivery services. As states continue to change guidelines and everything, we aren't really post-pandemic yet, but as everything remains fluid, you need to make sure that you are telling your customers if you have to temporarily close down. Unfortunately, Google and Yelp and other providers have offered ways to be able to put that front and center in the customer experience. If you have to shut down, make sure you temporarily close your location on Google. The last thing you want is a customer showing up, ready to give you their business, and you're shut down. That's a very negative experience. Make sure you have that front and center on your Google listing if you have that opportunity. Make sure you take advantage of that. Also, look at Google Posts. It's a great way to engage with customers digitally. So, the Google Posts have been around prior to the pandemic, but they've added specific types. The COVID-19 update on Google Posts is a great way, again, to update your customer base as things change in your operations. So making sure that you're updating your customers as things remain fluid, you will be able to have that opportunity to engage with customers and get out in front of any negative experiences, but also create positive ones by building more trust, building more integrity, and hopefully empathy, from your customers as you guys are experiencing quite a bit as a business. You have other types of Google Posts I'd also recommend to use. Again, we talk about offers and what's new. Scott hit on some of those examples. You have a chance to engage front and center with customers as they're in the discovery phase on new promotions, on things that are changing in your business, enticing people to hopefully come in and dine in again with happy hours or game day specials as football's opening up. Use this opportunity to activate customers wherever they're at inside the customer journey. And then finally, on Yelp, Yelp has provided a way for businesses to communicate updates around their vaccination status. So if you have, if you're requiring vaccination from customers before they arrive, you can call that out. If you've required your employees to all be vaccinated, you can call that out as well. Again, another great way to build integrity, put it front and center. You saw Scott's slides around data points on consumers and their health and safety wishes and desires for businesses before they return and dine in. Make sure you put that front and center so customers that are feeling that hesitance are looking and understanding that you're taking this seriously and you're taking actions to be able to make it safer for them to show up. So now, you have the customer journey. We focus a lot on how customers are finding your business online, how you can optimize digitally to hopefully capture their business. And now you're in the customer experience where they're actually in dining room, in curbside pickup, they place their order, and now they're experiencing you as a brand. There's a lot of opportunity here for innovation. Again, this has provided a once in a lifetime opportunity for you guys to really challenge your business and identify those friction points. Nothing should be sacred at this point. Everything's moving very quickly in your customers' eyes, and change is okay as long as it has a purpose, right? And I think that is where innovation begins, but you really should be focusing on what your customers are telling you. You shouldn't just run and try every single innovation technique you're seeing your competitors do. You should look at your customer journey. You should look at your friction points, and then that's where you try and identify areas of innovation to hopefully make it a bit more seamless for your customers. So I covered quite a bit of opportunity to beef your online presence and innovations around that. So I'll skip over that piece. But as you look at health and safety, this has become the standard. Really, there really isn't too much innovation around health and safety. I think that restaurants or fast casual dining can do at this point. Customers expect them to be able to take these protocols in order to do business with them. But I will say you should be looking at areas of pain within the safety and health of your business in your customers' eyes. If you find an opportunity, to monitor peak times, right? If you see a lot of customers doing curbside pickup at a certain time at a certain point in of the week, offer more parking spots, mark those out, try and improve the experience that way. If you see congestion when people are coming into the dining room to pick up their food, or they're ordering in a kiosk and people are congregating and waiting around for their food to be delivered or to be done, think about getting out in front of that by spacing out those waiting areas, as you're going to be experiencing peak time. So those are innovation ideas that you can use through data inputs and monitoring just the trends of your business as it moves on. Technology is ripe for innovation. Scott covered quite a few examples there. It's very costly too, right? I think that's the obvious elephant in the room. You can't do everything. You have to really focus on prioritize what's going to have the biggest impact in your customers' eyes, on their satisfaction, on their share of wallet, and that's where you really start your innovation process. You need to have a group of customers, a group of loyal customers through a loyalty program, or over time, sourcing those data inputs to go out and ask those customers, what is going to have the biggest impact. So, start there, prioritize, use and trust your loyal customers and what they're telling you. And hopefully you'll be able to have a bigger impact on, the bottom line, but also the customer experience. Then you look at operations. So, I've heard from a lot of customers here at Chatmeter, operations is where they've reduced their menu, to core offerings. They've also, had to reduce their menu due to staffing. You saw Scott's slide there on limited staff. So you have to be nimble and smart that way. And cutting menu items is always, I think, a fear for restaurant owners and brands, because you do have a couple of those customers that love certain items. They always go and want to order those. Use data to make those decisions. Understand, from the masses perspective, which menu items you can cut and you need to keep. But then again, use this as an opportunity to try out new menu items, and hopefully that attracts new loyal customers. Or maybe you have a new hot seller that you will maintain on your menu, throughout the next experience. You have ghost kitchens, which are pretty popular in dense areas. I've also seen a lot of marketing and marketing executives move a lot of their ad spend from print to digital. So that's pretty important as well. Again, try and meet your customers where they are in the customer journey, which is online through mobile and across key search sites. So that's an important, I think, innovation for a lot of people to be thinking about. At the end of the day, be agile, get creative. One customer in particular that I talked to that I found pretty interesting, they focused on where their customers are, which is outside. And I think Scott hit on this as well, right? If they're in the drive-through lines, if they're in the curbside pickup lines, use an opportunity to jazz those areas up, right? Think about your preview boards. How can you make it more simple and more condensed to where, they are able to order quickly and speed up the line? If you have upsell items you want to promote, yard signs are a cheap and easy way to do that. You can rotate those out pretty quickly and catch the eye of your customers as they're waiting in the drive-through line. I've also heard of merchandise windows, right? If you have, t-shirts or anything else you want to try and add on to their order, put those previews, put those preview windows right there as they're spending time in the drive-through. Your outside is really your inside now. Think about facelifts and ways that you can improve the exterior of your business. And then take photos of that. As I talked about on Google and on Yelp and on Facebook, take high quality photos. Make sure you're updating that across the board. That will just continue to increase your ROI long term, as those photos will now be, your cover photos and your business photos across all of your online listings and potentially even your website. And then finally, restaurants are really, building loyalty through resolution. And this isn't new. I think that's really, how loyalty works. You resolve issues, or you build trust, and you have a good experience. You're going to get loyalty from that. But if you process what loyalty really means for your business, especially in a post-pandemic world, it's going to become increasingly difficult to attract new customers. It's already hard enough to get customers to keep coming back. So the best approach to increasing your bottom line and sustaining growth is really investing in your loyal customers. You need to know who they are, so you can use technology to identify and track those customers through digital loyalty programs. Any data input you can get on your loyal customers is going to be gold. And then double down on incentives. Once you know who those customers are, get your loyal customers to be able to spend more and keep encouraging them to come in and dine in. I know from personal experience, pre-pandemic, when I go out, I never order dessert. I would rarely, add to, my order. But now when I'm out and about, it's become an event. So, I'll order a bottle of wine, my family will get dessert. We stretch out those events. My wallet share is growing. So try and get your loyal customers to come in, experience that kind of post-pandemic experience in your restaurant if they haven't already. And we already covered ways to be able to make them feel safe in returning and ways to attract them with promotions and offers. But once you get them in, we're seeing that wallet share expand exponentially. So then, it goes back to, again, those data inputs. Try and track as many as you possibly can, wherever you can, for your loyal customers. What do they like to order? When do they like to dine? Where do they like to sit? What are they ordering online? So when they come in, you have those opportunities to offer that to them right when they join, which will help personalize that experience and just continues to personalize the customer engagement. You can use that for marketing efforts, and tailoring messages to your loyal customers as you try and reactivate them. So, once you also have your loyal customers, it's important to ask them for feedback. So, the feedback of your loyal customers, again, is probably your biggest asset. And if you think about whatever your biggest asset is in a post-pandemic world, it is that customer and it is that customer experience. So you need to make sure you're doing right, by a bad experience. So if you get feedback from a customer that is telling you they had a poor experience, close the loop quickly. Make sure that you are empathetic in your response, and then use that as an opportunity, again, to look holistically and look at data trends from sentiment and other hot topics to understand if that's a problem that's persistent across your customer base, because then that's where you want to, again, focus on removing friction and a pain within the customer experience. I think that's also an opportunity, again, to test out, from a technology innovation standpoint, where you should prioritize your time. Your loyal customer base is a great opportunity to do betas with technology. You can do certain, smaller location footprints or regional footprints. Try and have encourage loyal customers to come in with offers to be able to try out new technology innovations, get their feedback, and hopefully you will be able to have enough data points to go all in, right, and invest at that point where you're saving, costs and time and energy, knowing you're going to have an impact on the customer experience. And finally, there's just no room for error in the post-pandemic world right now. Your customers, your biggest asset, as we've covered. The customer experience is critical. So don't complicate the process. Be pragmatic about where you're going to make changes and innovations, and don't go for something just wildly, wild and fall on your head. Think gymnastics, right? Continue to, know what you're good at, focus on that based on your customers' feedback, know what you're really excelling at, and just stick the landing. That's all I have.
Thank you, Jared. Certainly the need to know your customer has never been greater than it is today. We've got some questions to talk about here. And one of these questions has to do with customer reviews from using third-party delivery services. It's an interesting area. This particular listener says that the company's been trying to increase the number of positive reviews for the company, but most of the sales are coming from delivery. So how can they encourage customers to leave a review of the business listings after using a third-party delivery service?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and take this one, Scott. I think that that's always been a challenge with delivery service. Your food's cold, there's a delay, from when you order, to when it arrives. That's not the restaurant's fault. That is a challenge that I don't think there's any silver bullet for, but what I would recommend, and I've heard from other customers, use your packaging, right? Put stickers, across certain food items, leave inserts, encouraging people to join loyalty programs, or use that opportunity to ask them for feedback on the food quality, on the ordering experience from hopefully their app or the website or the business directly. And that way you help remind them, and you kind of keep your branding and the restaurant front and center. So, when they have a poor experience, they don't go ahead and blame the restaurant for it. If it's related to the delivery aspect of things, they really try and focus on leaving a review around the food quality, the menu, selection, everything that you would normally expect if you were, working with the restaurant directly.
Okay.
Jared, those are great suggestions. I covered the grocery vertical here at Forrester, and they're having exactly the same issues, right, with third-party delivery services. Those are super great suggestions.
All right. Well, along the same lines, another listener has a question. They feel that they don't have the the bandwidth to reply to every customer review, but should they make this a priority? And if so, where do they start?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and take this one as well. It's kind of in our wheelhouse. So yeah, I would strongly recommend obviously responding to as many reviews as you can. Again, we talk about your customer being your biggest asset. If they're providing feedback, then you need to listen. You need to show them you're listening and take action on it. Bandwidth is a concern there, so you have to prioritize where you are spending your time. And, I would recommend spending your time on reviews that clearly have context. So, some reviews come in with just a star rating. You can't really do much with that. I think you should respond to those. There's ways from, technology like Chatmeter to be able to respond to those in bulk and ask them for more context on their experience. That way, hopefully you can follow up and take that offline. But you have to prioritize reviews, focus on the negative ones, but don't ignore, the overly positive ones, your 5-star reviews as well. Try and respond to those where there is context, and again, personalize your response. Hopefully take it offline, offer an opportunity to do right by the customer by inviting them back to, hopefully have a better experience. But try and get to everything. There's technology out there that'll help you scale that, like Chatmeter, and hopefully you take advantage of that.
Okay.
And I would only add that if you're providing an opportunity for the end consumer to interact with you in that way, what you're doing is you're providing a promise that it actually matters when they do so, right? And so, yeah, you really should try to get to all of them. I agree on this end 100%. And it's also really beneficial to show how you're taking action against the feedback you're getting. Even just simple messaging in emails or whatever it is, just show them you're living that and honoring that promise of, yes, it really matters, and there's an exchange of value here.
Okay. Well, another listener has a more general question. They want to know how they can gain insight on the success of their digital efforts.
Yeah, let me take a stab at that one. A lot of stuff around digital, and again, right in Chatmeter's wheelhouse. So, from a monitoring standpoint and looking at how you can evaluate success in your digital investments and innovations, there's ways to be able to track trends around actions. So you saw my screenshot on reserving a table or ordering food. You can also have actions across that listing to, call the restaurant or click on their website, click through to driving directions. So I would certainly monitor those. So if you're seeing spikes and increasing, conversions on driving directions and ordering, then obviously you're doing a good thing, and your efforts are paying off. If you're updating your business photos, if you're, listing out all the services you provide, if you're really focusing on optimizing your digital footprint, you're hopefully going to, convert, right? And that's where you're going to convert customers, is right there on that listing. So I'd definitely monitor that. You can also obviously monitor the customer experience by your star rating. You can be making a lot of efforts and your star rating is staying stagnant. Don't get discouraged by that, but look at, the percentage of revised reviews. If you're responding to reviews and you're responding to negative reviews, are they changing those into positive, ratings after you've closed the loop and after you've hopefully done right by the customer? So I think there's a lot of different ways, from data insights, across Google, but also we aggregate a lot of insights here at Chatmeter's technology to be able to track those across multiple providers. So that's certainly the way that I would recommend, monitoring your efforts around success.
Okay. Well, our next question has to do with Maps apps. One listener wants to know, how do they go about engaging with customers using Maps apps?
Yes, I think it's the same, kind of real response that I just gave. You saw some of my screenshots, around the way your business listing shows up. You saw Scott's, I think, example around veggies near me. If people are using a bunch of different keywords to search, you want to try and make sure you're optimizing for what customers are searching for. So you want to be looking at, those volume-based keywords for your category and, areas where you can compete against competitors, or maybe where you're sticking out and you're seeing a lot of conversions from those keywords, because that's where you're going to get more eyes on your listings. And then once you're on your listings, creating actions, right? So you saw those buttons again to reserve a table right there, front and center across Google. They have a concierge service that they can actually call ahead and try and book tables for you through an automated way. So any opportunity for you to, again, kind of build out your digital footprint to try and create conversion and action, right there from a map search is really going to help you interact. I don't think there, again, is a single map app that, is different than, Google or any other search provider. So I look at map apps as really your online presence across where people are searching on maps, such as Apple Maps and really Google Maps.
Yeah, and I would argue they're at least or possibly more important than like paid search ads, all of the other acquisition vehicles that you've got running out there in terms of marketing. This is a big one. Okay. This is where folks are. This is how they're, on the go folks. I think what Forrester data showed 24% or so do this on the go, and this is how you touch them, right? You touch them on mobile while they're on the go.
Those apps are certainly going to grow in importance as we have an increasingly mobile society. Mm-hmm. So our next question has to do with that all-important issue of customer loyalty. What is the most significant loyalty mechanism to use right now?
Well, that's a big question. I'll take this one if you don't mind, Jared. Digital engagement, I would say. And I know that's a giant bucket, right? So digital engagement, we know folks are moving more to digital. They're shopping across brands and prior experiences, and their expectations are raised as a result of great digital experiences with other folks, right? With other businesses. So really honing in on the usability and the pieces of that journey related to digital engagement is a major factor. Mobile apps, of course, that is where you're going to focus. I would imagine most of your energy. I would also consider progressive web apps. So if you have a mobile app and then you have a responsive site, consider the folks who have never downloaded or probably wouldn't download your app to provide an app-like experience for a regular first-time mobile web user. That's another one I would look into. And then lastly, the building block for all of this is really a single view of the customer. And you need that single view of the customer across devices, across channels, and through all your locations. And those kinds of things are basically a building block to be able to get to, the holy grail in loyalty right now, I think, which is personalized promotions.
Okay. Well, we talk a lot about customer engagement. But one thing that some people are very concerned about is gathering personalization data. We have a lot of third-party data resources out there. But how do we get to that very special personal data? What can we do to improve that?
Yeah, another great question. I'll take this one, Jared. Basically, you're going to be working now with first-party and zero-party data, right? So are you limited by not being able to use third-party data, which is, an outside source? It's data from some other source, right? Not really. You may have been doing some of that in terms of acquisition, but in terms of customer journeys and true engagement, the biggest levers in terms of personalization are zero-party and first-party data. If you don't know the difference, zero-party data is something that the customer tells you explicitly. They ask you, you ask them, they respond, they tell you explicitly. That's zero-party data. And there's a value exchange with zero-party data, because when the consumer says, you ask them and they say, okay, I'm going to provide you some information, there's an expectation of a return on them providing that information, right? So there's a little bit of a promise with zero-party data. With first-party data, it is, geo-tracking. It is basically keeping track of where that person is interacting across devices, but it's only related to them, and it can be anonymous, right? So it doesn't have to be overtly strange, like make people freak out about how you're personalizing their offer. So in a sense, I'm saying third-party data, not as valuable a lever. Zero and first-party data is where it's at. All you have to do is ask them and provide on that promise something in return.
Yeah, that's great, Scott. I think I just add, when I look at Chatmeter and what we do for our customers, we look at it as structured and unstructured feedback as well, right? So you have structured feedback from survey questions, which are more market research. So they're very targeted, around responses you're looking for, either, from a positive, negative standpoint from your customer base. But the unstructured feedback is really where you get that personal story. People come in and either leave a review or an open-ended question, and that's kind of where they data dump. And it's anonymous, when you're online outside of your username. So you do kind of have that luxury of being able to look at an individual experience, and an emotional one at that, where they give you a lot of unstructured data, to be able to look at that trend then across other areas, either structured or unstructured, to identify those kind of trends, right? Or topics or hot button items that you may be, a little curious or nervous about. And I think that's a great way to be able to look at, how you structure your structured questions, right? And your structured data questions, because, if you're asking the wrong questions with data that you can actually report on from a structured way, and you're hearing more, in a negative area or positive area in the unstructured area, you may want to think about how you're asking the feedback from your loyal customers, or, your customers in general in the survey.
Okay. Well, I think we have time for one more question, and it's a big one. We hear a lot today about artificial intelligence, but that's certainly a very expensive proposition. How does a company with limited means approach the whole issue of artificial intelligence?
I can speak to this at a high level, and then Jared, if you have any specific examples, that'd be super valuable too. From a very high level, what we see across the board doesn't matter, fast casual, retail, across the board. There's a built-in mistrust of AI in general at the beginning of the projects, right? So employees and customers both will express, hey, I have some fear of AI. And really, it's the unknown of the unknown, right? It's the fear of the unknown, because they don't know what they don't know. It's the unknown unknowns, right? And basically, the way that I think about this is like driving a car. Okay, let's say like driving a self-driving car for the first time. The first time you get in that car and you push autopilot, I would be willing to bet that nearly every one of us would have our hands very close to the wheel at first, right? And then through some experience, as we start to understand the things that this automated transportation does better than I do as a person, I start to trust it, let off. Now, the beautiful part about AI, when you're bringing it into a consumer experience scenario, is that it will be measurable. The impact will be completely measurable, and it's not all black box anymore. So lots of these tool sets related to AI will actually show you how they're making the decisions, in a granular way at a layperson level, how they're making the decisions, and still let you pull levers. Like when you get in the car, you're still going to tell the car where to go, right? You just may not be the one pushing the gas. And you don't necessarily need to push the gas if it can get you there efficiently and quickly, right? So in general, at a high level, we're seeing that across the board with organizations. A great place to start would be just small. Like Jared mentioned, like you can start small, and lots of these AI providers will let you trial some of their models to see how it works with your data. So start small, proof of concepts, do it in one location, see if it works, and then go big would be my approach.
That's great. Yeah. I don't have any specific examples that come to mind, other than I'm hearing a lot of opportunity to, look at AI options for, your website experience, for your mobile app experience. If you think about, the way that personal preference works in artificial intelligence, if I'm, clicking on a certain area of the menu all the time, or if I'm ordering the same food all the time, when I, land on a website, my personal experience may be different than Scott's. You have the opportunity to present likewise menu items, right, that I may want to try, or what I'm going to order. So you put that front and center, right, and you try and add other upsell items alongside that. So I think the personal navigation experience and shopping experience is a great way to use artificial intelligence to hopefully increase wallet share. And obviously conversion, you can personalize that based upon prior experiences.
Okay, great. Well, good timing, because that takes us right to the end of our allotted time. So thank you, Scott and Jared. This has been Building, Analyzing, and Transforming Post-Pandemic Customer Experience. Thank you all for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having me.